The Dodgers are still in first place despite dropping a series to the Cleveland Guardians. And Dave Roberts thinks they're going to start looking at trades. USC football had this massive blowout for recruits, but we have no idea who the hell's coming in. And we are going to attempt to do the impossible today. We are going to rebuild the Los Angeles Lakers. Hi there, I'm James, and this is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is Faithful Angelenos. We are going to spend a lot of time today talking about the Lakers because, as usual, there are a lot of pie-in-the-sky rumors sent out by people who damn well should know better. We're going to try and cut through the crap this week because this is when the teams start to rebuild for next year. Now, by the way, thank you. It's June 20th, 2022. We added a lot of new subscribers yesterday. If you have enjoyed what we've been putting out for the last 4 months, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notifications bell. Hit that. We put out videos between 9 and 10 a.m. every day to let you know it's there. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist, and by all means, comment. There's one thing I am keenly aware of, particularly when it comes to the Lakers. Sports writers are not perfect. Let's get to the scoreboard. What do you say? Cleveland defeated the Dodgers 5-3 yesterday, taking the series 2 out of 3. The Dodgers are still in first place, but here's a note. Two of them, actually. Manager Dave Roberts told the LA Times that the team is exploring, quote, external options for lineup improvements. And this matters. The Dodgers were leading all of baseball going into this month, scoring 5.5 runs per game. It's dropped precipitously. They're scoring only 3.5 in June. Now, I'm not sure the idea of a trade is about Mookie Betts, who has recently gone on the injured list with a cracked rib. Why? Because Betts, in order to determine the cracked rib, got an MRI. Now, I work in medicine now. If you have an actual clear break, an X-ray does the trick. MRIs are done for very subtle ailments, okay? So if it's needed to be determined subtly, that means it's a subtle break, which means theoretically, it could heal quicker. No, I'm not a doctor. That's just layman talk right there. To me, the idea of potentially upgrading the lineup via trade, that could be regards to Max Muncy, that could be regards to Cody Bellinger, that could be regards to Justin Turner. There's a variety of reasons why that could be the case. Meanwhile, in WNBA, Dallas defeats Team Backstabber, the LA Sparks. The Wings 92-82 in the win. LA drops to 5-9. USC. You know, if you have a Twitter account and you're not a bot and you don't hate Elon Musk, you follow the Trojans, right? Every time the Trojans Twitter account does this, the fight on symbol, it basically means that, hey, everybody, we're about to say that we've added a brand new recruit. And so they had this big blowout. By the way, please say hello to Cock Blocker, the cat, meowing in the background. So the Trojans had this massive recruiting drive in LA, and man, did they pull out all the stops. They even went so far as to give all of these 5-star recruits breakfast. Not breakfast at Burger King, not breakfast at a 5-star restaurant, not breakfast at Heritage Hall. They rented out Staples Center, put nice tables all over center court where the recruits dined under the giant scoreboard. That is going to make an impression on a 17-year-old. So, of course, Sunday, 4 times USC Athletics, signifying 4 recruits, have allegedly committed. Normally when they do that, they immediately follow up with the names. But they didn't. So did the teenagers go teenager and change their minds? Don't get me wrong, I would love to see how USC solved a bunch of problems, right? But we don't know. We don't know. We'll have to find out. I want to talk a lot about the Lakers today, by the way. Oh, but one more note about SC. They brought a number out of retirement for Jordan Addison, the wide receiver that they got through the transfer portal from Pitt. The number is number 3. Carson Palmer gave it his blessing. So there's that. But let's talk about the Lakers. Now, the reason I waited to talk about the Lakers for about 5 minutes is because this is all theoretical. Okay? I'm not making any predictions, much like I'm not making any predictions about Mookie Betts. But every so often, I feel compelled to bring people to tether them back to reality. A lot of the proposed trades that you read online, the blogger that goes online and starts talking about the trade or, the free agents or this, that, or the other, it's all crap. It's a guy peeing against the wall. Kind of like the guys that you hear, the drunks that you hear at the bar talking about macroeconomics. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. So recent lottery picks the Lakers can afford, and then the guy mentions Elfrid Payton. Who the hell wants Elfrid Payton? I saw that guy in Orlando. You could get tickets to a Magic game for $10 and still get half your tank filled back then. There's a reason the Magic stunk. It was Elfrid Payton. He was a good chunk of it. That guy was one of those type of basketball players that spend far more time in the hair salon than they do the gym. You do not want Elfrid Payton. But there are 2 rumors that are apparently starting to pick up a little steam, and I want to shoot them down. I do. Zach LaVine wants to be a Laker. According to a Western Conference executive, quote, "That's no secret." You have to give up something to get something. If the Chicago Bulls were even to begin to entertain that, you know where you would have to start? Anthony Davis. Because Anthony Davis is the guy with the soft spot in his heart for Chicago. So no, Russell Westbrook isn't going to go to Chicago for Zach LaVine. Number 2, the Athletics Shams Charania, who seems like a decent guy. He says the Nets are at an impasse with Kyrie Irving and that the Lakers could be interested. Could be? Duh. But there are multiple problems with the idea of Kyrie Irving joining the Lakers. 1, he's 30. This is the team that needs to get significantly younger. He's 30. Number 2, you would have to convince Brooklyn to take Russell Westbrook in a sign and trade. Number 3, Kyrie Irving missed out a big chunk of last year because he refused to take the COVID vaccine. Now, if California acts like New York, and oh, by the way, California's government does act a lot like New York. You could be trading Kyrie Irving and never have him on the court if there's one spike in COVID cases. Number 4, Kyrie and LeBron had problems in Cleveland. Anybody remember that? So no, I'm not really going to put a lot of stock into the idea of Zach LaVine. I'm not going to put a lot of stock in the idea of Kyrie Irving coming to LA. Not now. You'd have to give me a lot more than what we've got. The only thing that I definitely accept is that a number of league sources say that the Lakers are trying to buy their way into the second round of the draft. That I would buy, because that way you could get yourself an affordable young talent, even though they're not necessarily going to be game changers. Because the Lakers, and this is where we're going to start to rebuild the lineup, we're not going to start talking ridiculous, busted out lottery picks that didn't do anything like Elfrid Payton. We're going to talk about people who actually have established something. As a start, we're going to remind you guys that the Lakers have 8 guys that are currently projected to be on next year's roster. Okay? Davis, Wenyen Gabriel, LeBron, Stanley Johnson, Austin Reeves, Talen Horton-Tucker, Kendrick Nunn, and of course, Westbrook. We are not including Malik Monk. Malik Monk did very well last year. He's probably priced out of being a minimum wage player. Let's just be real. He's above that. So you're saying to yourself you have a roster of maybe 15. You have one mid-level exception, and everybody else has to sign for minimum wage. So what we did, or what I did, I should say, was I made a list. I started off by taking what most writers think the Lakers need. And then I started to write the people who are available and who checks off most of the boxes. And when I mean available, I'm not talking about elite players. I'm not going pie in the sky here. Having said that, I think I can create a team that is definitely going to be better than last year. Definitely younger. Am I predicting world titles? Hell no. But here's what the Lakers theoretically need. They need 2 wings because of the way that they are going to run their offense, the so-called 41 offense. There's a lot of wing players that are needed in that. We have prior tapes that talk about it. It's going to be 1 big man in the center and 2 players on each side of the 3-point line. Wings, okay? So you're going to need at least 2 wings. You're definitely going to need a 3-point shooter. And you are going to need upgrades in both rebounding and rim protection. In other words, Dwight Howard, DeAndre Jordan, they simply can't cut it. Okay? So I made a list of mid-level type players or unfortunately injury-prone type players that I think the Lakers can get, possibly, for 1 mid-level exception and a bunch of minimum wages. People trying to rebuild their careers. So there are 2 players who check all 5 boxes. Defensive-minded wing, 3-point shooter, upgraded rim protection, rebounding, and can make a play every so often. Those guys are Brew Brown and Nicholas Batum. Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown would be a tremendous get in the sense that he's 25. So that immediately makes the team younger. Nicholas Batum, yes, he checks all the boxes. He's 33. Perhaps one of those guys comes for the mid-level exception. Other guys who check off a number of those boxes, but not all 5. Otto Porter Jr., Dion Wright, Victor Oladipo, and Ricky Rubio. Now, I get it. Oladipo and Rubio, big names a few years ago, but of course injuries and whatnot have derailed them. That makes them affordable. Is it possible they can come in on the minimum? They're in their 30s. Very possible. The only one out of those 4 that I just listed that are in their 20s is Otto Porter Jr. at 29. So far, we have added to the roster, hopefully, Bruce Brown, Batum, Oladipo, Rubio, Wright, and Porter. Then we start looking towards the big men. Now, you don't need as many big men as, you don't need to have a forest of tall trees in there, especially when you're running that 41 offense. So you're saying to yourself, okay, we want rim protection, we want rebounding. Mo Bamba comes to mind. Chris Boucher comes to mind. Isaiah Hartenstein comes to mind. Bamba and Hartenstein are both 24. Immediately you get younger. Immediately you get more athletic. Serge Ibaka is also out there. That's a possibility. He checks 3 boxes. He's 32, however. Now there's about, going through my list of free agents, there's probably at least almost 24 names out there. But we're not going to go through all 24. What I'm going to suggest to you is that potentially the ideal offseason for the Lakers, because they're not, the idea of these pie-in-the-sky trades, if something like that actually breaks, great. But if not, no, this is the unfortunate route you have to take. You wind up adding Bruce Brown, Otto Porter, Victor Oladipo, Ricky Rubio, Mo Bamba, and Serge Ibaka. I think those are 6 or 7 players that the Lakers can get. But you tell me what you think. Because after all, this is not going to be an easy task. Now, if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We are trying to build something with LA sports out here. I'm James. Thanks for watching. Faithful Angelenos is a Corte El Queso production. Take care.